welcome to this amazing interview with Polly. I'm so excited. I'll introduce her in just a second. Want to welcome everybody that's watching the replay. Thank you so much for being here. We've got some really awesome stuff. I know Polly's story kind of well. I look forward to learning more things about it. Um, you don't know what you don't know, and sometimes we have to overcome some limiting beliefs to even be open to learning what we know. What we don't know, we don't know, and how all of that then helps us go after our dreams. If you've never met Polly before, Polly is the CEO and founder of Horacio Printing and the creator of what's called a dream planner. And she has a podcast. It's called the Dream Printing Podcast, that where she teaches other people how to print their thing and achieve that print dream. So she's an expert on dreams. I've been doing this for quite a while. We met, I think it was 2 years ago. You're expecting your second little one, I think, at that time, and we kinda lost touch for a year or so, but then last December, I had just gotten my CFP credentials, and the next Monday I've been getting your Monday emails, every, Monday. Sometimes I read them, sometimes I don't, but something told me that Monday to read your email, and I opened it, I read it, I was like, "The podcast she's talking about, I need to listen to this." So I went and I listened to that podcast, and I was like, "I need to listen to more of this podcast." I subscribed. By February, you were talking about print school and, opening up a 5-day challenge about print school. I was like, I've always wanted to print something. I'm a book lover. I love printed things. I need to just try the challenge. I did. I ended up winning a scholarship to print school. It just feels like all these doors are opening, all these green lights were turning on and reconnecting us, uh, moving me toward printing my thing, which we'll talk about as well. And so I just wanted to bring you on and let's tell that story and let's kind of show people there are green lights. There are ways to find those open doors. I believe God wants to open doors for people. How do we overcome those limiting beliefs and go after our dreams? So
Yay!
that's my intro.
Woohoo!
Thanks so much for joining me, Polly. I think we're going to have a lot of fun, and this is going to be a really impactful conversation for people have started actually joining now. So want to welcome you all. The chat is open. You can comment, ask questions, share ideas. Leilani, aloha. Thanks for being here all the way from Hawaii, which is like 6 a.m. there, I believe. So thanks for joining us super early.
Yeah, cheers to you.
So Polly, tell us a little bit about what makes you so passionate about dreams. Where did this come from? And it had what was your own dream awakening moment? Something like that.
Well, I've always been a big dreamer. Some might say I live in fantasy land, hard to keep my feet on the ground. But I heard a preacher come and speak to me. This was back in 2014 in New York when I was on my path back to the Lord. And I was on my path, but it was still kind of stumbling and falling down a lot and scraping my knee. And he was on a book tour actually. And the thesis of his book is that because we're all created in the image of God, we are all artists. We are designed to create. We're created to create just like our Heavenly Father. And he said the most important work of art you'll ever create is your life. And that really just touched me. It spoke to me as an artist because I myself have been a painter since, pretty much high school, got into art. And it was something that I was really passionate about until, maybe a few years leading up to this sermon. And I wasn't pursuing my passions. I wasn't pursuing my art. And I know how much that fills my spirit up and it lights a fire in me to do the things that I love to do those creative passions and to create something. And creating something could look as much as like creating an event or creating a meal or knitting a sweater, like whatever that thing that you love to create, or maybe you love to create as a kid. And he just re-sparked that passion for me, and that belief. And I got really serious about crafting my life into a work of art. And that's why I created the planner, my dream planner, because I knew I had to take my time more seriously. And I definitely had to take my time more seriously in order to start a business or like a side hustle. And so I really started to own my craft, eliminate things from my canvas that needed to go, add things into my canvas, aka my schedule, to make it happen. And I watched a dream come true. I think once you put yourself out there and you're like, okay, I'm doing the thing, that dream happened. And I think that's really, for me, it like built momentum in my life. And I've done a lot of different dreams. I moved to New York by myself and started my career there. And I knew it was possible that if you put your mind to something and you show up, like doors can open, green lights can happen. But you have to put yourself in those situations and, move forward and get your foot off the brake and just start going. And so I'm a big believer, like if you can just move forward, great things can happen.
Yeah, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and, an object in motion tends to stay in motion, so once you get that ball rolling, it's a lot easier to go after it, and I
Mhm.
wanna, the next just to give you kind of a heads up, my next question is gonna be like, "Well, but that doesn't mean it's gonna be easy," and there's gonna be some limiting beliefs that get in our way even if we've decided to go after our big dreams. But I have to talk about this author that you're mentioning, Erwin McManus, and the book The Artisan Soul. So I've never actually read that book, but I have my own Erwin story.
I've got
Probably
it right
about
here.
okay,
You
Erwin's
should
book.
let's just hand it to you through the screen.
um, about 3 years earlier, I was engaged to my now husband, and we went to this conference, and I don't think it was Erwin that was there. I think it was somebody that had read one of his previous books that was sharing what that book talks about. But it could have been Erwin. I've no actually don't even remember who it was. But they talked about it was called The Barbarian Way. And the whole idea about this book is that a lot of people believe the safest place is the center of God's will. And that's actually somewhat the most risky place, right? When you put yourself in line with God's plans and purposes for you, what he's created you to be, that involves a lot of risk a lot of the time to go after that and to pursue that. That's like the dream that he downloaded that then you have to go after. And that's actually part of what I think when I finally found the idea of becoming an entrepreneur, starting my own business, that believing that was true, that it was actually risky to follow, God's plans and purposes, and that's all throughout, history, lots of stories, not just in the Bible, but through our faith that people took tons of risk and that's how they pursued their dreams. I think that's, like, come into my marriage, into my young adulthood, to and into my older adulthood now, I'm getting close to 40, um, to, like, really guide me, and then when it comes to money, it's like, well, how much risk versus safety? How do I and it all comes back to how do I align my money with my dreams, my goals, my plans, the purposes, and all of that, which is actually a lot easier to do than trying to figure out what's the best thing to do with money, right?
Mhm.
So that's kind of our origin stories, I feel like a
Mhm.
little bit. What did you come across when you started then going after your dream? What are some of those limiting beliefs and how did you overcome them?
So many, so many. I think people can look at someone who's a couple steps ahead or many steps ahead and go, they just have the confidence to do that kind of thing. Like they're just
Mhm.
made differently. We are all made a little different, of course. Like we're all unique, but I think when you're pursuing a dream, you're going to hit these hurdles and it's about how you can handle the hurdle. And I'm actually a really sensitive person. Like I wouldn't say I have the toughest skin at all, but my background was helpful because my background was in sales. And so I have dealt with a lot of career rejection, and like that's just what it is. And the marketing and sales background helped me as well starting the business. But it's different when it's your business
Mm.
and it's your baby and it's your idea versus like pitching this company you work for. Okay, they don't like the company, whatever. Like they just don't know what they're doing or something.
Mhm.
You can kind of let it roll off your back. But when someone rejects your thing that you built, it's just a different level of vulnerability. And I think I dealt with a lot of limiting beliefs, starting with the idea that I'm not smart enough. I'm not enough. I spelled my company's name wrong at the onset of getting my LLC, getting all my website set up. And it was too late to turn back. I was living on Horatio Street with a T. I named my company after it, but I spelled it with a C. So really, my company is Horacio Printing, which people look at me and they're like, "Wait, I thought you don't really." you don't have a Spanish, it's like, yeah, I spelled it wrong. But anyways, it is what it is. And God's used that for his glory. And, I had to overcome that because in that moment I thought, oh my gosh, if I can't even spell the name of my business right, how on earth am I going to run it? Or like
Mm,
do all the legal steps right? Or not make sure I don't make another huge mistake. When's the next time I'm going to fall on my face? And which I've done plenty of times for sure. That was definitely a big one. And I think the biggest thing that's helped me overcome my limiting belief is just continuing the momentum forward of, okay, what's the next right thing? What's the next step I have to take? Finding people that can speak to the light in me and encourage me, these candle flame fanners versus candle blower outers, making sure I have the right voices around me. I'm always, especially now, like in the last 5 years of business, really jumping into masterminds, getting coaches, surrounding myself with CEOs that deal with the same things. Because for me, I know you and your husband work together really well in your business, but for me and my husband, we're very disconnected with our career stuff. And so, he can't sit there while I'm verbally process something about my business for an hour, and that's okay. Like, he doesn't need to be stuck in the weeds of my business. Like, that's personally not conducive for our marriage. Like,
mhm.
that's not where we thrive. And so that's great. He gets the high level now. And I take those things to my CEO friends. But I think the biggest thing, especially when you're starting out, is we have to surrender the outcome. Like, that's the biggest thing. It's like, okay, I'm showing up. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try to have excellence in this. I'm obviously going to fail at times. I'm going to spell things wrong. A text is going to go out that's incorrect. The link's going to be messed up here and there. Like, something's going to go wrong. But for the most part, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to show up and I'm going to do what I know to do in my strength. And then I have to surrender the outcome to God, because the ultimate outcome of how this turns out does not equate to my value, my personal worth, my identity. And when my identity gets so rooted in my revenue that month or the success of a campaign or whatever it is, how many podcast downloads I got for that episode, it's misplaced. My value is in Jesus. My value is in him. And ultimately, I'm co laboring with him. And so it's on him too. I have to show up, I have to do my thing, but I surrender the outcome to him. And it's when I do that, um, that the limiting beliefs and the weight of it all dissipates,
Mm.
because it's a partnership with my creator, and I'm showing up and trying my best to have fun with it versus feeling the weight of like, this has to succeed or everyone's going to think I'm an idiot, or this has to go well, or I'm going to be so embarrassed, um, because
Yes.
that's heavy.
Yeah, yeah. What I wanna bring out is what you did not say there. I loved everything that you said. That's very much how we have overcome a lot of limiting beliefs. It's just, okay, what's the next step? What do we put the next foot in front of the other one? But what that's not is this very American belief that you get what you deserve,
Mm.
and that overcoming limiting beliefs that you just have to work harder, hustle,
Mm.
grind, make it happen. That is not what we're talking about here. That's not how you go after your dreams, right? It's not, you have to become more deserving of those dreams. You
Mm.
have to, like, we all want personal growth, but that's, you get the personal growth as you move, as you do the next step, not about being perfect. So thanks so much for being open and transparent about some of those mistakes. I've done those things too, the wrong link, all that. The other thing that's like the counter to you get what you deserve and work harder is the create the vision board and it'll just come to you, and
Mm.
that more of like manifesting type of thing. And I believe there's some to that, right? Like, we so much get what we don't deserve a lot of the time. If I'd be, still in a cubicle working for, some nonprofit if I got what I really deserved, right? And it's been so, like, I could never have gotten to where I was today if there wasn't something divine, someone divine guiding and opening those doors. But I also know I also wouldn't have gotten there if I didn't follow that lead and take those steps and be in line with what he's doing. So we just launched our Kickstarter. Maybe Tyler, who's here, can put the link in the chat. That's been like my big thing throughout this whole journey is this is all about aligning myself with what God is doing. And God has things he wants to happen in people's lives. And this printed thing is what he's going to use to do that work. Not what I wrote here, but how he moves through these words, what he does. And one of the songs that came on Spotify the morning of the launch was the song, "What are you doing today, God? And how can I be a part?" And I was like, "You're doing this. I just am
Mm.
get to be a part of what you're doing." Very different than manifesting, right? Very different, but and also, very different than like I have to work to deserve whatever I get. And that's what the whole limiting beliefs is going to those extremes and not existing in this tension of it's both and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. What?
Yeah. I think the thing for manifesting for me is like when you have this concept that like I can manifest things, I can manifest money or success or whatever. There's obviously a lot of problems with that. I think the biggest one is you become your own God. It's
Mm,
a self-reliance, which is really dangerous. I don't think there's anything wrong with like the desire to want to have a business that's profitable or to want to have a good campaign or to upgrade your car, whatever it is. But it's the heart posture of surrender and the heart posture of doing it in relationship with your God, with Jesus. And so that's the big thing. And the idea of like these affirmations or just think it and it'll happen. I think that's the counterfeit, but I think there's some truth into the power of your thoughts, right? It says,
absolutely.
consider what is beautiful, what is lovely, what is true, think on these things. God speaks a lot about the power of our mind and the importance of us reining in what we say, reining in the tongue and the power of life and death in our mouth. And there's so much power, and all that stuff comes from your heart. And that's why it says in Proverbs 4:23, it's like above all else, guard your heart. So I think that's really the path. It's like we have to guard our heart. We need to guard our mind, renew our mind, meditate on the word of God, and speak life, right? But the problem with manifestation is you're trying to become your own God, and
Mhm.
that's super dangerous. But yeah, you have to show up to do the work. You bring your 100%, and then God brings his 100%, and his 100% is 100 million times more than ours. But you still are co-laboring with him. I had a pastor years ago say, God will do what you can't do, but he's not going to do what you can do. And
Mm,
I loved that. It was like, yeah, we have to get off our rusty dusty and go forward and take a step of faith and to be proactive, to show up for the thing, to become who we're called to become. And so I'm so excited for your product that you created. I had chills when you were talking about how God is going to move through the words. Because I had no idea how God was going to move through my planner when I put it out there the first year, and how it would show up on people's doors at the right time, and just how God breathed on it and used it in ways I had no concept of. And I love your product. I love that you're helping people create and dream about their wealth, which is such a key catalyst to impact and to legacy and to financial peace. Um, because if you have no resources, you can't really bless people, or your children and all of that. So I'm so excited about your product and how your product also comes with the support group. I know on the Kickstarter, if there's certain tiers and rewards you can get depending on how much you pledge, in exchange for the book, along with membership time to the group, which is so cool because that's what we need, the journal plus the hand holding and support. I think that's just so cool.
yeah, and that goes back to your point before that it's not just you and God, it's also your community, your mastermind, the fellow CEOs that you get to talk with, coaches, and that's often like, not only could I have not reached my dreams myself or gotten closer to my dreams, there's still dreams that are yet fulfilled, right? I'm moving toward them. Um, and not only I couldn't just do it me, I also wouldn't just be me and God, it's also all the other folks along with us, and there's so much power in community, and that's what I've also loved about Print School is there's courses I get to, classes I do, online videos I get to watch, I build relationship with you kinda that way, hearing your voice, like, and sharing things like, um, what you just shared about how God's not gonna do what you can do, but he's gonna do what you can't, or like those that kind of idea. I remember writing that down in, I've got my this is where I took notes, the best is
Oh,
yet to come
fun.
little um, which this is a Horacio Printing product. I've got it all like lots of words and stuff inside. Anyway, side note. Where was I going with that? Oh, but also like the group calls that you do and bringing everybody together twice a month for Q&A. Those have been fun to then cheer other people on and see what their projects are like. And I know one other print school student, I was like, this is on my Christmas list now. My husband better buy this for me. Those kind of things. That's super important too. That one of the limiting beliefs is that we have to do it all on our own. And that's one of the things actually, a mentor, spiritual leader of mine told me way back 20, when I was like 24, never do anything alone. And I've tried to like live that out in as many ways as possible. And that's also absolutely been part of how I get to go after my dreams.
That's so good. There's another book that I really love about dreaming called The Dream Giver. That is fantastic, and it goes through an allegory of a man named Normal living in the land of ordinary. It's something like that, or it might be backwards. His name's Ordinary living in the land of normal. It's one of those, but he goes through these different levels of fear as he has the dream from God, who's the dream giver. And then he just gets out of his recliner one day and says, I'm going to go do the dream. And he starts physically walking to the outer border of his comfort zone physically. And he hits this invisible wall of fear. And then when he gets to the wall of the comfort zone, all these border bullies come out, people that he knows and loves that are
Mm.
like, I don't think you should do it. You might fail, and I think you should come back where it's safe. Like, I don't know if you have what it takes. And so, and then obviously he goes and does the dream. And it's a great book if you are pregnant with a dream right now that you want to birth. It's fantastic. But
Mm.
that book really spoke to me. And, Sarah Blakely, like she would not tell anybody about her dreams when she had them, then when she conceived them, she'd keep them very sacred. And for me, even with my early dream, I found a couple creative people to help me get the planner designed, but I kept it kind of under a rock because I needed it in that safe place for it
Mm.
to grow before I shared with everybody and got everybody's opinion on it. So, just take that for what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I definitely did the same thing. Like, not everybody knew that the journal was being created when it was. And that reminds me of a children's book that my sister-in-law bought for my son. It's like, what do you do with an idea? I think that might even be the title of it. And it goes through like, do you hide it? Do you, like get distracted by all the squirrels, right? And then it's an idea grows when it's shared. And
Mm.
some people I feel like are listening right now, you don't have a dream, you just have an idea. You're not sure how it's connected to a dream. It's just a little seed, right, of an idea that maybe that's the first step is to share it with somebody who loves you, that's going to ignite your candle, not blow it out, and see where that idea starts to develop and goes from a seed to a little sprout and continues to grow. And maybe it'll grow into a dream and change the world.
Mhm. Yeah, you've gotta give it oxygen. You gotta give it time. You have to have space to dream. I really find, like, if I'm under too much pressure and too much stress, it's hard to dream,
Mm.
So you have to create a space and time that is for dreaming, that is fun. Uh, and when we get bogged down with the limiting belief, fear of failure, fear of judgment, uh that just kind of that's us blowing out our own candle. So the only way to really combat that is to truly do your research, right? Find someone who's done the thing that you want to do so you can learn the steps, but also you have to think about the people on the other side of the dream that are actually going to hold the product or have the service or find the breakthrough. Because like the planners now, like, yes, I love my planner. I want it, but I make it for my customers now. I make it for them and for what God's going to do with it in their lives. Or the Bible study I'm creating, it's for them. When I go live on Instagram, it's for the people on the other side as I teach something or share something. So the more you can take your brain away from like, how do I sound right now? Do I sound silly? Do I sound crazy? Like, how do I look? Whatever. The more you can take it off of yourself and start thinking about who you're marketing this for, who you're creating this for, how you want to help people. For me, when I shift that focus, I can move forward because I'm not stuck in looking at me. Because when we stay looking at ourselves, we're going to stay stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, where we look is so important. I
Mhm.
love that. That's such a good, truth that I've found to be true in my life too. Um, Now I wanna give you a second to please put in the chat, share out, where people can find print school, and then also one of the things I love about the dream planner is that, and I think one of the things I found, like, back in December or January when I started re-listening to your podcast was your areas of life and the exercise that you take people through to hone in on, do they want their weakest link, right? Focus there, but also how do they find, um, kind of the idea you can't do everything today, but you can do something at some point throughout the month and clear like finding that space in your calendar, in your time to be a good mom, to be a good wife, to be a business owner, and hone in on what's the most important there, that kind of thing. So, um, the 2024 dream planners are coming out soon too, right? So,
Yes.
I'm definitely ordering one and excited to, be using that next year, 'cause, like, I've been doing Bujo for a long time, just bullet journaling, and I realized, like, I want something that's more like, created for me rather than I have to create everything. So thank you for what you've created.
Yeah.
And those kinds of exercises being included in your planner,
Mhm.
that it's not just a bunch of dates that you fill in all your tasks, but it's invitations to be more intentional, to think things like that through, I think is huge and tremendous. So thank you for creating that. And please, we'll share a link to that too, or it's just HoracioPrinting.com.
Yeah, HoracioPrinting.com. Those planners are coming October 3rd. We're gonna reveal everything on the 19th of this month. Woohoo!
8 days. I've
Yeah,
been counting down.
so exciting. Yeah, the planner comes with a course called the Dream Planning Essentials course that takes you through the whole planner and the exercises. And what you were mentioning is our wheel, kind of like the wheel of life. I actually had a partnership with, still have a partnership with Chelsea Joe, who teaches Systemize Your Life. And I love what she does because she was kind of this missing puzzle piece for me of like dreaming big and then living out your week. I didn't really have a great connector previously. And she was kind of that person for me. And so what it does is you go through your wheel and you shade in how encouraged or discouraged you are in all the areas of your life. And you could be thinking about this right now as you're listening. All the areas of your life, spiritual, physical, financial, um, I just said spiritual, professional, your motherhood, your marriage, like all those areas, how your home is. Which of those areas is the lowest? Like, where is the nail in the tire that's got you parked right now? And like, or what areas have a nail in the tire? Because we're not going to be inflated everywhere, but maybe one or two areas you have been doing well in. It's probably where you're spending your time, right? And then from there, you create these fundamental needs. This is Chelsea Joe's method. You create your fundamental needs for the week. For example, I have one thing a week that I always do for my marriage, which is my marriage journal. I have one thing a week that I always do for spiritual, which is quiet time. One thing a week for my home, cleaning. I have like a sprint around the house. And so you have these things that you do on a weekly basis that are just these fundamental needs. But when you're getting started with it, you can just think about, okay, where's the nail in the tire and how can I schedule an hour or 15 minutes today or tomorrow to pump air in that tire? Because I believe your number one dream is for you to walk in wholeness, right? And we got to pump up the tire in the areas that we're lacking in, because if we are running on E, flat tire, we can't go towards our calling. We can't, this dream that you have or the idea or the seed, it's gonna be clunky. Whereas if you can really pump up that tire by getting more sleep, or, adding in a couple more nutrients, getting your house organized, like whatever it is, not perfect, but just better, you can walk more in wholeness, which is going to help you pursue your dream, right? Because we're all connected. Everything's connected. Our spiritual life, our financial life obviously seeps into every area, right? If our financials are in a mess, that's going to affect our marriage. It's going to affect our health. It's going to affect how we sleep at night. It's going to affect how we show up at our job, right? Dave Ramsey, he won't hire people unless they have their finances in order and they show, this is how I'm going to live off this paycheck, because he doesn't want a stressed out employee. And I love that. I think that's so fun. Like, I mean, it's interesting, like he wants them to fully understand their budget. So, because if we're, completely lost on it, we can't show up and do good work. So yeah, that entire training comes with the planner. So you can grab one on October 3rd.
Yeah. And what I love is the way you teach it. It's not like you have to do this. If you're not doing this, you're a bad person, that kind of thing. That, like, for instance, one of the things I went through this like cohort with other moms to like just think about how do we be a better mom. And some of that started with self-care. But one of the things that stuck with me from there is like, how do you react to your kid when they wake up in the morning? And you're like, you should have totally slept for another hour. But like if you act like you're excited to see them every day, that's putting something into them. It takes you 2 seconds and a little bit of energy. So then I don't feel like I have to do something very like motherly once a week. If I'm doing that, like that feels really good. And then like once a month we can have a mom son date, and that's like pouring into him. And so the way you teach it kind of gave me permission to make it my own, right? Like we don't need to do a mother son date every week. That would just be too much. But like to be excited to see him in the mornings just is a different way for him to start every day and builds into that trust and that love that we have. So
Yeah.
thank you for that gift and how that kind of went along with what else was happening in my life at the same time. Okay, so we've talked about print school. We've talked about the dream planner, and I'm super excited for what's coming. We have the Kickstarter that we're doing. It's live right now. Do, like, we've got the chat open. If people have questions about any of these things that we've been talking about, or there was something you want to just talk about limiting beliefs that we haven't talked about yet, here's your chance. Polly, while we're doing that, any other thoughts that you want to make sure that you share?
We do have a new workshop up for print school. So if you're interested and you're like, oh, I want to learn more about print school, I want to print my thing potentially. Maybe you've wanted to make your own devotional or journal or planner. Because I redid print school now that over 100 students have gone through it. And so it's better than ever. It also includes launch school, which helps you launch it, which is what Amanda's in the midst of. So you can go to HoracioPrinting.com/print school. You can also go to HoracioPrinting.com/workshop, and that workshop will take you right to the workshop, and you can watch it on demand. It's super fun and it's pretty quick. So just want you to know that workshop's there for you if you're like, I want to learn more. I teach the dream printing method in the workshop.
And I've loved both the print part of print school and the launch part of print school, the launch school. Both of them have been really great. And even though I've launched things before, even though like I've worked in Adobe before, I learned a ton. And I think it's great for beginners, but also if people are like, I have printed something before, or I've launched a program before, that you'll still learn things. At least I did. um, and then We'll put the Kickstarter QR code back up as well, and I think the link is also in the chat for Five Smooth Stones, which is a book/journal hybrid. There it is. That is currently available to be backed on Kickstarter. We've got lots of great prizes there. One of the or like gifts for people that back us. The community that we have as that one of those rewards is a $49 value per month. That's what we listed on our website. And so when you back for $42, you don't just get the book journal, you also get that community. So it's like you're joining the community for a $7 discount and then getting the book for free. Or you could think of it, you're buying the book and getting the community for free either way. And we've got a whole library of content in there with videos, articles, worksheets, things to help people create the smarter, more stable future. I know you and I are both big fans of Google Sheets. You had a ton in print school. I have a ton of Google Sheets that people can copy and use. And yeah, there's the link to our actual community if people want to check it out as well.
I'm so excited. I have backed your Kickstarter, and I think I picked the one where I get 3 months
Yeah.
of the community. I'm so excited about that because I've gone on a let's call it a wealth journey, or even just dreaming in that area. Because for me, I don't know if other people listening can relate. I feel like what you learn, or what you don't learn really, is like, okay, you work hard to make more money so you can have a little savings account, and buy a car, or you can finally buy that house, or you can afford a mortgage. And we just bought our first home, 2021, and like that was a huge dream. It was on in my planner bucket list for years, and then we finally got the home when I was 7 months pregnant. So it was kind of a whirlwind. And but I've never really had a dream for what my financial life could be or what it could look like. I had this big, like, you don't know what you don't know, and I didn't know. I still don't know a lot. And so and with money, it's like, especially as a Christian, it can be like, okay, evil, right? Oh, it's evil. But then it's also like everyone's really secretive about it, and there's so much you don't know, like what people do and how they make it work, and what's the plan? How do you have a plan? Like there's just so much that's like foggy, and no one's just out here like, this is how much I make a month. Like you can't even talk about that at the workplace. Like you're not supposed to share your salary. And there's so much secrecy around money. And so I think it's a really cool thing that you're doing, and how you are educating people. You're giving things in transparency, and you're allowing people to have a space to dream in that direction, which affects all areas of your life. And so I think it's so cool. I'm so excited to jump in the community and see what I can learn, because I know I have some gaps. I recently had a wealth coach last year, and it like blew my mind. I was like, I've never even, like, there was this big mountain that I now have my sights on, like a goal, but like I didn't even know that mountain existed until she explained the mountain she built. And I was like, what? I had no idea. And so I don't know. I just think it's really cool, because what people do is, if you just make more money, you let your lifestyle match, like you just, okay, well,
Yeah.
now I'm spending more money on food and I'm taking better vacations, and like you just spend it.
Yeah.
Like that's what I do, if I'm not managed. And so I'm just really excited what you're doing, because we could have bigger impact in the world. And so super pumped. You guys should all go back the Kickstarter, and we can all do the group thing together.
Yeah. Um, Thank you. And I love that you used the analogy of the mountain. Because so a lot of people picture like a big stack of cash when you mention a mountain, but the mountain's really the journey. And actually, as you start, one of my mentors told me one time, you go as far as you can see, and then you see further. And that you even use that term, like set your sights on the mountain. What we use that analogy in the book, and what I love about it is that when you start moving, as you get closer to that mountain, as you start to climb that mountain, as you live out the journey, you see it differently. And you see new paths you can take, new
Mm.
dreams you can dream, different things like that. And what too many people do, sneak peek, spoiler alert, this is in the book. What too many people do is they set a goal, a financial goal, and then they never change it. or they set a budget and they feel so restricted and rigid, by that budget. When we invite people to set their sights, you get to change your sights, right? I'm looking at you right now, but I could easily look over here the next second. But I also get that invitation to choose what I focus on and to have that evolve as I continue on my journey, that I'm not so stuck in this is what wealth means or this is how I do this. So
Mhm.
if you're jiving with that, the Kickstarter, go get this. I think you'll really like how we approach money. It's very different than how a lot of folks do. And I know you're a big fan of profit first. That's how I think we originally connected, was talking about profit first. We're very profit first friendly as well. If business owners out there listening love profit first, and I love what you do with profit first in terms of giving. I need to look up that old episode from 2 years ago where you talk about how to use profit first to be more charitable. That's a great way to think about money too.
Mhm.
Is like a financial goal can be, I want to be the largest donor to XYZ organization, or I want to give this amount of money to end extreme poverty or to fight human trafficking or whatever. Those are amazing financial goals and ways to set your sights as well, not just some big pile of money.
Right, exactly. I love that. I'm so proud of you and excited for you. It's been
Thank
really fun watching your journey inside of print school and outside of print school, and I can't wait to see how it all shakes out.
Thank you. And thank you so much for all that you've poured into it. I couldn't have done this without you, or would have maybe taken 2 or 3 years instead of the 1 year since I, kind of joined and started moving. So thank you so much for all the shortcuts and the encouragement along the way. Again, if you're thinking about printing something, check out Print School. If you're like looking at all these journals and our planners that are showing up at Target and I was at Staples recently, they're already out for 2024. Don't buy one, wait for the reveal in 8 days from Horacio Printing, and then order it in early October.
Yay.
Yay! Okay, thanks so much, Polly. I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.